This is the popcorn series of the first round in the East. We don't exactly know what's up with Julius Randle and his injury status. And Brendon, that's my question. I think this series is only really competitive if Julius Randle is going to play and be able to be healthy. Last we have heard from Tibbs, he is not going through contact yet. And if he's not right, I know like they can play smaller. They have the shooting, they have the offensive rebounding stuff that can really push on some weakeners for Cleveland. But they really, I think, just need Julius Randle. They need what Randle is as an offensive creator. They need his shooting. They just need what he's providing for them at the power forward spot, I think, to kind of have the oomph to kind of compete with Cleveland. So for me, it's just like, does he play at all? And if he does play, what does he look like? And how does that just shape out what New York is? I think this series is closer if he plays, and I don't know how close it will be if Randle doesn't play or doesn't look right.
Yeah, I have, can the Knicks change how they play enough to make it close? I have to make fun of your take there a little bit. You think it'll be more competitive if the second best player plays? I mean, I'm just wondering what you think happens, because I think that's the more interesting question, right? It's like, how do the Knicks evolve considering they can't have the dude? Because they've had it for a while. I think that's an advantage. It's not like Paul George in one of the Western Conference series where it's like they're kind of still figuring out what they are without Paul George. The Knicks, they've had some time to figure that out, and I just look at, to me, really quick, and then I'm curious because you've spent a lot more time thinking about this series than me, which is why I'm making fun of you, is I know you have more thoughts. Mitchell Robinson, to me, needs to play more. Like, he needs to max out. Whatever the Knicks training staff feels like the most he can play him that much. And then the Knicks were top 10 in three-point frequency and efficiency since the All-Star break. Can they tick that up, like, even more? Can they just say, we're letting it fly? And then I feel like, can Quickly and Grimes take a higher usage than they've had, which is obvious. Mm-hmm. But I think those two guys in particular, if they can burn the Cavs defense with floaters, pull-up jumpers, not, those in-between shots where they're not dealing with trying to finish against Mobley and Allen, then I think, you're starting to get to something where the Knicks can keep this competitive, and it's just going to take young guys stepping up a lot. I don't think this is an RJ Barrett series, which is why I did not say his name, but I do think there's some players who can step up and make this interesting.
The Robinson thing's a good shout, and I think their center play and their forward play in general is going to be key, just because one of the weaknesses the Cavs have is they get absolutely shredded on the defensive glass when it is just Mobley on the floor at the 5. One of the big weaknesses, really the only weakness, with Mobley at the 5, I think the big one has proven to be their defensive rebounding. None of those lineups are rebounding defensively correctly. They're just getting the crap kicked out of them by opposing teams. The Knicks are a team that offensive rebounds pretty well, and if it's Robinson and they're gang rebounding and they're getting to these second chances, that can make this game closer than it maybe it should be. That's a real point of concern for Cleveland. They also have to see, we'll see what Isaac Okoro looks like. I also just did not the headline of the series is Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. That is the real main course of this series, and we've talked about that, and it's going to be talked about to death. And it's I felt like there's a need to just look a little bit elsewhere. I really do also just on the rebounding point. The Cavs play smaller. When they just don't have a lot of size. For a team with 2 7-footers, they just are not particularly big on the wing. And I wonder if at some point Danny Green, as a guy who will be competent in shooting and being in the right spots, and maybe just cleans up some of this stuff by just knowing where to be, or Dean Wade or someone pokes their head up above the ground and makes and kind of helps figure this out with Evan Mobley on the fly. Those lineups should be great offensively. They are great offensively for the most part. The spacing is nice. Everything fits. It's just that one aspect that leaves them very vulnerable, makes them feel not as good. And I just wonder if they can find a fix on the fly here. Or at least one that gets them through to round 2.
Yeah, I hear you on all that. I feel like that's an area where Josh Hart and even RJ Barrett, I actually think could make a pretty big impact on this series is rebounding for their position, just pursuing the ball when there's misses and everything else. And it is a clash of two very different teams. The Cavs are a bottom 10 defensive rebounding team overall this year, and the Knicks were the second best offensive rebounding team in the league. Now, Randall does a lot for you as an offensive rebounder, but if they can commit to that, Hart obviously is not going to really be a step down. It's just, different types of lineups. I don't think people realize just how good Mitchell Robinson has been this season. He's one of those guys, similar to the players we were just talking about in New Orleans and all that are inconsistently available because they're so humongous and basketball is not fair to them. But he led the NBA in offensive rebounding rate by 2.3 percentage points. Like, no one was close. And I think he's gotten a lot better reading the game as a pick and roll defender and just controlling the paint in that way. And it's just kind of been quiet and in the in the shadows because he is just so inconsistent with when he plays. And you might just watch the Knicks 3 times and never catch him even on the court. But he's healthy now. He closed out the game this season. And if he can play, 35 minutes per game instead of like the 25 to 30 that they normally try to keep him at, I mean, you could tell me he outplays Jared Allen in this series, and that would not surprise me. So I think it could be close if the Knicks can adjust. Like we said, if they're going to have to play differently. Like they're going to make themselves a different team in order to win this series, and that's hard to do with so little time.
And look, how much is put on Brunson's shoulders? Like, is it just Brunson does everything, and where does that lead you? I think that is
so. I think
part of it. Yeah, and like, is that enough against a team that has Garland and Mitchell and like all these different mechanisms to like the talent is just there for them, and like in particular at the guard spots, just like has all this stuff, and it's like is Brunson like in superhero mode? Is that enough? And I tend to.
It was great in the first round last year, but yeah, it's gonna take a lot. I don't. Let's just do our picks then, because it feels like we're getting there. Well, you go first.
I'm going Cavs in 7.
That's exactly what I had. That's insane. I felt like I was going to do that to kind of make you mad and troll a little bit, because I think most people would feel like the Cavs should take care of business sooner than that.
I think it's 7 just because I think there's little weaknesses that I think are going to show up. I think there are just things I need to see, and this is the first time a lot of these guys are going through this. Like, this is Garland's first time. This is Mobley's first time. And I suspect they're going to be fine, but I think, like, there always is an adjustment. And I just think the Knicks are well coached. They're deep. They know what they are. Even without Randall, I think this team will know what it is for the course of the series. And I think the Cavs at times feel to me like there's someone still searching for little identity bits here and there. So I go Cavs in 7. I think like the talent for them is high. It's too high. I also think like Mitchell's just going to be a fucking monster.
I think the last thing to note there, I also, like I said, have Cavs in 7. I think them finishing it out at home is part of why I didn't pick them in 6. The Knicks were 24-17 on the road this season. The Cavs had a losing record on the road. They're the only top 6 Eastern Conference team to have a losing record on the road this year, and that speaks to their youth. And obviously winning a playoff game on the road in MSG is even more difficult than like a random game against the Raptors in Toronto during the regular season, which they already struggled with. So I think it'll be closer than people think. And then if you do throw Randall in like a game 4, 5, 6, then it's just another wild card. But the Cavs should win. I hope they do. I think it'll be fun to watch them get tested in a round 2 more than the Knicks. But man, the Knicks they're a tough dragon to slay. They really are.
I think the Cavs probably get like beat by the Bucks, but I want to see it.
But I want to see it. Yeah, exactly.
I want to see Drew Holiday defending Donovan Mitchell. It's like really what I want to see.
I want to see Evan Mobley defending Giannis. Is really
brother.
To me, that's the main course there. But
me the fuck up for that.